Everybody, so we're looking at some new lots that are being ready for some new housing to go up, and unbeknownst to a lot of people, they're gonna be captives to these lots and houses for the rest of their lives, thinking they own some of this property, but in reality, people don't own property anymore. And who owns it? It's basically the banks and their elites that own these houses. But it's just people have the illusion still that they own property. Now, the reason people don't own property anymore, specifically we're in Canada right now in this area, is because rights and of property ownership have been basically eaten away by rules and regulations. Now, before I go more into this, I want to explain the fact that ownership of a home comes with certain rights. Like owning a house is a right, meaning it's not a privilege that can be taken away, but it's a right. But this right is being trampled upon by many rules and regulations from the government, and it's being done in favor of corporations which are owning this houses that people have no choice but to come and buy and be captives for 30 years on crazy interest rates. They can't even afford the price of the house, so they have to go borrow for 30 years now is the mortgage time for people to pay. Now every home ownership, it's a right. Now it comes as a bundle which includes the right of possession, the right of control, the right of exclusion, and the right of enjoyment, and the right of disposition. Now at every level, these rights are being decayed. Now, right of possession, it just means you just possess the house. Right of control, it's when the title holder, can use the property in any way that is not illegal. But the way you can use your house is regulated heavily to a point where you have no choice but to use it only in a certain manner. When you lease a car and you are obligated to use the way that the car ownership company that leases you the car, um, that's the only way you can use that car. That's what's happening to home ownership now, is the same thing. So the next level is right of exclusion. The next right to home ownership is the right of exclusion, and the right of exclusion allows the title holder to limit who may enter the property. Again, it's crazy, but even this right now in places like California, even this right now is being trampled upon. We can see squalors moving into people's houses and now leaving due to crazy rules and regulations in places like California and even Vancouver, Toronto, where tenants are basically now moving out because the government has created this crazy rules that trample upon people's rights. So people now have an illusion that they own these houses. In reality, you don't own this house, you're just a leaseholder. Yeah, your title is on it, but your basic home ownership rights are so regulated and so limited that owning a house is basically almost like a leasing a Tesla. People have no idea what's happening to them, especially after COVID. Authoritarianism and technocrat rule we're witnessing now in Canada, with government becoming absolute tyranny, and corruption is just going vile and wild. So I'll give some examples of corruption. Is the Arrive app, or the Trudeau prison hotels that they were locking people in like sheep. So this is the same now, just the doors of the corral and the prison have been opened temporarily for the people to graze, like cows to go around, and so they can tax and milk people more. So you have to realize now that in Canada, in a lot of the world now, freedom is dying, and small business, people that do businesses like this are being trampled upon and their rights are being limited, and people are losing their freedom and becoming serf for the elites. So this is kind of like happening everywhere in the world right now. Canadians don't realize when they buy a house, they're buying an obligation and a liability. You're investing into a property and obligated to pay fees for 30 years on a doubtful appreciation. And by the time you count all fees and taxes and interest rates of mortgage and expenses on renovations, then you spend more on the house over course of the lifetime, and you end up being responsible and obligated to pay for a product with limited rights to use it. Even the right to rent, it is heavily regulated and abused in Canada in favor of tenants that can just basically come and stay in the house and just not leave because the government just encourages that. Basically, where they're taking us is to where people don't own their homes, they don't own anything, and like they say, you won't own anything, you'll still be happy. So we have to realize the way the system is structured is to give you the impression that you're the proprietor and the owner of the property, when in actual reality your rights to the property are slim and reduced to a leaseholder for 25 to 30 years. That is, if you're lucky to stave off and stay afloat 30 years in the boom and bust cycles of capitalism. Why are these houses basically so expensive right now is because of monopolization, because of government regulations. Like I've talked about this in my other videos, is the competition in house building and purchasing process is limited now with regulations by government, and this is what's pushing the prices up in housing in Canada, is because of these rules and regulations. When you don't have free market, you don't have competition, then prices go up because there's less competition, less houses being offered, the demand is higher, quality goes down as well, while quantity goes down as well. But we still have higher demand because people need a place to live. But due to free market being hindered by the government regulations, prices end up going up. Monopoly is being built where the banks own all this land now, virtually, and all these houses, and people are turning into basically leaseholders. They're becoming subscribers to homes, and I think that's what's going to happen is people are going to end up being basically, instead of homeowners, subscribers. It's kind of like subscribing to Netflix or any program like that. That's the same thing is going to happen to housing, is we'll become basically subscribers, which is sad. So that's all.